Karan-san, please excuse my voice. It's been affected by something. Okay, so today we are going to proceed as last week as well. First we are going to observe the Chanta Namaskara, observe the precepts. And we're going to do roughly 30 minutes meditation. And then we're going to talk about Dhamma or life. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I hope you're sitting comfortable. Meditation means cultivating the mind. Learning about the mind. Purifying the mind. And also relaxing the mind. Meditation means awareness of awareness. What that means is what we are going to learn. Little by little. Meditation means getting to know yourself, getting to know your mind. And it is not something you can only do sitting. Something you can learn to do everywhere. Buddha called it samasati. So the Dhamma is like a soap. As we progress in Dhamma, we can use it as a way to purify the mind. Buddha always said, an untamed mind is one's own worst enemy. Diso disangyantam kayara veriva panaverinam miccapanitam chittam papiyonam tatokare. An untamed mind is the worst enemy, even worse than the most annoying colleagues, enemies in the outside world. So we can see our minds are untamed many times. That's fine. It's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that at the beginning. It is just to recognize. The Buddha always praised the effort of taming the mind. How do you tame a horse? If there's a wild horse, how can you tame a horse? Is it by putting it on a leash immediately? Does that work? The horse will just escape because it is wild. It is full of energy, full of restlessness. Similarly, our minds are also very restless most of the time. restlessness is not something to be changed. It's not something to be ashamed. It's only something to be recognized, to be understood. To be accepted. Because if we are restlessly trying to not be restless, then that can't work. If we are restlessly trying to stop being restless, recently I came across a very nice realization. The nature of ego. See, sometimes when ego happens, we feel it's not us, by the way. Ego is not us. Ego is a visitor to the mind. You and me, we are the pure mind. But the pure mind is captured by visitors. Visiting defilements, raga, desha, moha, when ego strikes. Then the mind does not feel humbleness. It is very convinced. Is very convinced of something. I am the best, for example. It is basically attached to some kind of views, drushti upadana, ditthi upadana, drushti upadana. Sometimes ego feels I am the best. This is how it has to be. This is the right way. This is the wrong way. Sometimes, and that is what we call superiority complex. Superiority complex. It happens to all of us. All I need you to do is to recognize it when it happens to you. Because it's not you, it happens to you sometimes. When the causes come together, the effect manifests. And sometimes there's the feeling that I am no one, I'm nobody, I'm a zero, I'm a loser. sometimes the mind is also very convinced that I am no one, I am nobody, I am a zero. That's also a strong belief. So we can't say that that is humbleness. Humbleness is not to feel that you are no one. Because the moment that mind feels so convinced that it is a zero, then that is not humbleness. So, what does it mean, humbleness? Humbleness means first of all, humbleness means a healthy amount of self-love, a healthy amount of being okay with ourselves. I know that I am not perfect. And there are things I don't know. Then there are things that I know, at least to the best of my knowledge, it seems to be the right thing. If somebody comes and shows me another way, I'm willing to listen. I don't claim that I know it. I'm not fixed to the knowledge. I'm always willing to adapt. So with what I have, I try to make the best out of that. Humbleness is a very healing attitude for the mind. Once again, you are not humble, you are not, or better to say, you are not inferior, you are not superior. Whenever the mind feels superior or inferior, then that's because of a visiting defilement that has taken over the mind. The natural mind, we could say that what you really are is naturally humble. Humbleness is not something that we have to become. Because if we can purify the mind so that raga, desha, moha does not arise, and humbleness is naturally there. That's why Jesus has said, when somebody asked him, how do you go to heaven? What Jesus said was, first you should be like this child. A child has a sort of he doesn't take things too seriously. Because it doesn't really feel that it's really knows what it does. It's always willing to learn from the adults. It has courage to try, courage to explore. And ultimately, that is what we all have to do. We have to have courage to explore, to become ourselves, to become what we really are. And the Dhamma is there for that. The Buddha has come for that, to help us. The Buddha never came to make us who he wants us to be. The Buddha came to make us who we really are. To bring out the Arahant within us. To bring out our natural being within us. That's why every Arahant was different. That's why the Dhamma is never there to tell you how you should behave. It is only there to tell you how to get free from the cankers, the artificialness within you. Raga, Dvesha, Moha. If we can eradicate these, the rest is what we call an Arahant. So we can't really create an Arahant. We can only seize the process of using the Arahant, hiding the Arahant. Unlike anything else in life, where we try to become someone, for example, you want to become a teacher, so you ask, what are the causes to become a teacher? What do I have to do to create a teacher within me? Now you have to create yourself, make yourself, become someone. But for an Arahant, that's not how it works. You can't make an Arahant. Because the Arahant is there within all of us. It's just like when you create a Buddha statue out of stone. do you really create a Buddha statue? Or do you not just remove all the unnecessary parts? All the unnecessary gravel and stone? If you chisel away these, what remains is a Buddha statue. See, defilements are really manifestations, effects. Defilements are things that happen because causes come together. Are you angry all the time? Are you an angry person? How can we say there's such a thing called an angry person? And you should be angry all the time. Can you decide to be angry? Can you become angry just now? See, first you need a reason to be angry, right? If I ask you to be angry, you can't just be angry. First you might have to think about a reason why you can be angry. Maybe you find a reason to be angry about me. So first a mana dhamma, first a thought must arise, reminding you of something that makes you angry. So, if you need a reason to be angry, then we can't really say that you can become angry, right? It means it's not something you can do, it's not something you cannot do, it happens. Because once the causes are there, once all the causes come together, anger will happen, whether you like it or not. Once the causes are together, can you stop being angry? Or is there anything that you still have to do for anger to arise? No. Once all the causes are there, if there is a thought that reminds you of something bad, then anger will arise, whether you like it or not. So then how can you blame yourself for becoming angry? Why do you feel that it is something that you have done? See, if you are living in a house and the whole kitchen is dirty, you can blame yourself if you have done it. But if someone else came and made the kitchen dirty, why do you blame yourself? Because anger is anger. It happens. And does that suffer from anger forever? Does that mean that there's nothing we can do about it for any time? No. First, you should understand, when you're angry, can you stop yourself being angry? Just like that? No, you can't do that. Does it mean there's nothing you can do? No, you can do something. See, although you are not in control of anger, you are not in control of the effect itself. You can change the causes. See, when you're angry, you can go for a walk. So you can decide to change the environment. Because for anger to happen, it needs a certain environment. See, when you see your colleague, I don't know, if you see something that makes you angry, anger will only happen as long as you see it, or as long as you remember it. Can you see the pattern? Anger is not simply there with you. It has to be kept alive by seeing, by hearing, or by thinking, by remembering. So once the input, once the trigger is not there, anger won't be able to manifest. So once you change the input, if you go for a walk, don't worry. You don't really have to do anything to get rid of anger. Once one of the causes are removed, anger will simply no longer arise. That is one way to solve anger. It's a very temporary solution, but it is the solution that we should try to do, if nothing else. You cannot get rid of anger by wishing it away, but you can go for a walk. That is something that you should do as a good person. As good people that we are, it's something we should try to do. And then we can go and think about more. See, anger always happens within us, isn't it? Anger is in effect happening within us, as in it happens in the mind. Because there are some causes that come together. Basically, it's an expectation, a wanting that is not fulfilled. Wanting is there in the mind. And that wanting is not fulfilled. And these two causes come together, they manifest anger. It's like clapping. As long as you press the two hands together, clapping will happen. But can you create a clap with just one hand? Can one hand clap? No, right? See, we get angry because something didn't happen the way we want. So there is a way. There's a, in Sinhala we call it vidya. There's a way we have in our mind. There's a my way. There's an expectation that comes in contact with nature. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. Sometimes people ignore us. And when we are ignored, we get angry. Why? Because there's a wanting in the mind. Not you wanting anything, it's a wanting. There's a wanting to be recognized, to be seen, to be greeted. And that is the vidya, that's the way the mind clings on to. You could call it upadana vidya. This is how anger happens. Once you realize anger is created in this way, and once you realize that the outside world are just events, there's no pleasure in being greeted and being accepted, recognized. These are just events. You only want something. We don't want something to happen. Why? If we think that they bring us the anger, they bring us the suffering, that's why we don't want them. And it is because we don't want them to come that we get angry. Not because they come, because we don't want them to come. See, that's a very subtle point. So what I advise you to do is always recognize expectations in your mind. Recognizing means just being aware. this will help you to treat the wounds in your mind and to know where you have the problem. Because the mind cannot suffer without expectations. So expectations are our biggest culprit. Now, let us slowly come to the end of the meditation. Let's slowly open our eyes and start with the discussion. What should happen over time when we do this, from my experience, is, sometimes it hurts. That kind of meditation sometimes hurts. When it's like cleaning a wound. So when you clean a wound, first it will hurt, right? Because it may be infected and you have to touch it. But once you did it, it'll be quite pure, clean, and then you will be happy you did it. Because the wound is clean now and it can heal, so you feel that relief. So this is a little bit like that. Sometimes, maybe in meditation sessions like that, uncomfortable things happen. As in, feelings. But I hope that with the guidance and with the patience, with the merit and everything, these things will dissolve. And that helps. It's a big step towards more happiness. That's my experience. There were many interesting points that one can elaborate on, especially, of course, the significance of expectations. And there's a very delicate way to handle all these things when they happen in our mind. Expectations, for example. See, expectations are not something we do. They also happen. So that's why recognizing them is the most important thing. There are people who say that awareness of expectations alone is the solution. Right? Just know that you have expectations and that's it. That is not what I would say. That's not my understanding of it. So awareness like that is not enough. But it's the first step. Only after you know, you can apply the soap, or you can basically use the Dhamma. But what good is the soap or the Dhamma when you don't know where to put it, where to use it in your mind? So, and the thing is, with all these defilements, when they happen, we don't realize that they happen. Right? When we feel feelings like ego, superiority or inferiority, we really feel that this is me. Right? That's why it's like hijacking a plane. I'm the best, is what we feel at that moment. That's what ego makes us feel. It's not we can't avoid it as such. But there's a way we can treat it, of course, because it arises always because of causes. Do you have a question? Being aware of awareness. So, our mind has naturally does something. Our mind. We see, hear things, we experience the world. Now, I'll give you maybe one simple understanding of that, and then maybe we can go deeper also, but that's the first step. See, there can be, how to explain it the best way? The mind is a very special thing because it can hold views. So if you ask this duster, what are you here for? So the thing is, mind can bear knowledge, right? Mind can bear knowledge. Can a duster bear knowledge? No. Because the duster is only matter, isn't it? So if you ask the duster, what are you here for? It wouldn't be able to give you an answer, obviously. Now, also, doesn't the duster always do what a duster should do? Does a duster try to become a horse and do horse things? It doesn't do that. That's why we say it's nature, isn't it? We say that the duster is nature because it always behaves like a duster. It never like an elephant. Because you can't teach the duster, you can't even try to teach the duster that you are an elephant. Imagine you go to the duster and say, by the way, duster, you are an elephant. The thing is, the duster doesn't understand what you want. You can't talk with this. You can't give it any views, right? The problem with the mind is, actually, it's at the same time, it's a great ability that the mind has, as well as it's a great trap that can arise in the mind and nowhere else. It is the fact that the mind works with knowledge. So it's very adaptable, right? The mind. For example, because of the mind, see, we have people all around the planet, different countries, different climate, and different historical situations than we had people living in Middle Ages. So the environment is very different, but the mind, especially if it can change and adapt views, as it is for a human, for example, can't it be very, very adaptable? It's very dynamic. But a duster cannot do that, right? No, not at all. But the mind can do. So similarly, you also, when you go to another country and you learn that you eat not with hands maybe, but with fork and knife, and that view is installed in the mind, suddenly the mind runs with that view. And it can adapt. Because it can bear knowledge, it can remove knowledge, all these things can happen. So you can learn a lot, you can be taught. See how many things that you have learned over life. But what has the duster ever learned? It can only do one thing. It was born with one ability and it can do this ability still. But you, when you were born, could you speak Sinhalese? Could you do mathematics? Could you do physics and biology? And could you do tax declarations and whatnot? Engineering, raising children, none of these things. But you can take a book, you read it, and now you can actually adapt, because you can read a book and you can take that knowledge. So, see, that's an ability that the mind has. Now, the one problem arises here is you can teach the mind. Now, the mind now has to solve one problem that a duster never has to solve. And that problem is, what is the mind itself? Right? Because the mind has to make sense of everything. See, the mind holds the knowledge about this, right? When I show you this, don't you have an idea of what this should be used for? That's something that it's in your mind. This should be used for wiping. We can call it a sankhara. It's definitely some sort of knowledge. See? The mind, in order to live in this world, has to associate knowledge, views, in order to function. And one thing it has to also know is, what is the mind itself? What is it for? What is its meaning? What is its purpose? Right? So the mind has knowledge about the mind itself. What am I? What is yeah, something like that. And that's where the tricky part happens. That's where the problem happens. Right? So I'll give you one simple definition. It goes deeper, but see it like that. I'll show you the two categories. it's a little bit tricky to say, what am I here for? So I write down, what is the mind here for? There is one aspect which we have to understand here also, which is that, to be honest, have you ever even known that you have a mind? Maybe because when you went to school and when you learned about the Dhamma, when you learned about Buddhism, you were taught that there's such a thing called Hitte, the mind. I can tell you about me. When I was in Germany, I never really learned that there is such a thing called the mind. I think if I talk to most people in my country and use the word mind, then obviously they would kind of understand that what that means, but somehow they don't really have any clue about what it really is. So what I want to say is that it already shows you a little bit that, see, the mind is like an actor which has been used to playing a role so long that it really forgot who it really is. If you can understand that. Imagine Leonardo DiCaprio plays the Titanic movie for 20 years, from day in, day out. Don't you feel like there's a point when he might forget that he's not actually what we call, what's the name in the movie? The character? Titanic, but how is his name in the movie itself? Maybe, I don't know. Let's say, whatever his name was. And that he was in love with this Jane, yeah. So it's like if you were to meet Leonardo DiCaprio on the street, in the real one, in Los Angeles or wherever he lives, and you ask him, who's your wife, who would you like to marry, then he would say Jane, because we met on the Titanic. Imagine he would say that. So then he would say that's something wrong, because he has forgot who he really is, isn't it? It's a little bit like that for the mind as well. Then if I ask, let's say now I ask Leonardo DiCaprio on the street in Los Angeles, I ask him, who are you? What will he say? Will he say that I'm Leonardo DiCaprio? No, right? Because he has forgot that he is Leonardo DiCaprio. He even doesn't know that there is someone called Leonardo DiCaprio. He thinks he is, let's say, I don't know, I just don't know the name, Thomas. He would say, I'm Thomas, I'm from this and this country, and I'm living in the year 1915. But actually, that's all fantasy, right? His real name is Leonardo DiCaprio. That's what he really is. But he doesn't know that anymore. It's a little bit like that here. See, we all, partly we don't even know that there is such a thing called the mind, as well as we don't know what it is here for, what it is meant to do, what it was designed to do. what it is not able to do. And this is another good aspect. What it is able to do and what it is not able to do is another very important aspect for the mind. So for example, imagine that you meet a human who thinks that he's an elephant. So what does he think he can do? Or for example, I don't know, let's say there's an elephant and he grew up. I once heard this story a few years ago. There was an elephant and a baby elephant, and I think he was left by his mother, by the whole tribe. He was alone. So he grew up with rhinos. So he lived all his life with rhinos. So he learned how to do things like rhinos, a certain way, right? Certain things he can do, certain other things he can't do. So by doing that for a long time, he might come to this conclusion, because he can't even see himself really properly, that he's also a rhino. So he will think that what I can do is rhino things. So maybe rhinos, they can do something that elephants can't do. So now there is a problem with that, right? See, imagine that you think you're Superman. See, when you go to the top of this building, maybe when you jump, Superman can maybe fly when he's jumping, right? Maybe he can do that. Or Spider-Man, he can use his fingers to, I don't know, through some spider webs, and he can jump across buildings. But imagine you think that you are Spider-Man, but you are not. So once you think that you're Spider-Man, but you are actually not, the problem with that is you will try to do things that you absolutely can't do. But you will try to do that. What will happen? You will suffer. See, that's the same thing that happens here. The ignorant mind thinks about itself something that it is not. Therefore it tries to do things which it cannot, and that's why it suffers. The enlightened mind knows what it is able to do, what it is not able to do. Therefore it doesn't try to do something which it cannot do. Therefore it doesn't suffer. That's it. That's it. There's nothing more. It just doesn't try to do something that it can't do. That's what we call Nibbana.
What is the difference between what you can do and what you shouldn't do? That what you can do, but what you shouldn't do.
Can do, shouldn't do.
Now, for example, say I'm a very rich man, I can deal in drugs. Okay?
Yes.
Right? That there is something I shouldn't do. So, and that's not what I differ from can't do, that I shouldn't do.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between all the three things?
Three things? Why three?
What you can do, right? See, what you can do could be what you shouldn't do also. Okay?
Yeah.
So how do you differentiate as to what you should is what you should actually do?
Yes, that's a good question. See, the Dhamma and the Buddha, so the Buddha always talked about two levels of practice. This here, which I haven't pointed out what it is, but I think you got the idea that what the difference is. these are the two layers. Now I have written the deeper one above and the lower one below. That's conventional, you can change it. So, when we are talking about can do and can't do, we are talking about conventional reality. This is something that where we can answer this question, can do and can't do. As an example, I am rich, so I can deal with drugs, but should I or should I not? Here, from my best understanding, what is important is, of course, and this is something that you can also practice when you're doing this meditation, is, listening to your conscience. Right? Conscience, now how do we explain conscience? Conscience is the pure voice within you that will sort of guide you if you listen to it. But first you need to learn to listen to it. Then meditation also means that. So you should be able to see that this calmness and mental peace, tranquility, it comes with being good, doing good. So I give you an example. When you do, so for example, you have a lot of money and you want to deal with drugs. Now, normally a person would do that because he has a desire. It's something that he wants to have with the money. He wants to have more money maybe. He wants to buy himself something. So he has a wanting. Then imagine that you do that. Imagine you call someone to make a deal with drugs. I can tell you from my puberty years of experiences, I don't say who has made these experiences. I have to say my marriage have saved me from most of the bad experiences, but I have associated people in my school who have never done anything really bad, but they have bought marijuana, these kind of weed, like these kind of drugs. So even you go and buy that, and you know that it's illegal. Now when you go to a meeting like that, how do you feel? You must have fear. And it's one thing to do it as the one that buys drugs, but selling because selling is much more illegal. Selling and distributing these things. So when you do these kind of deals, you always have to live with the fear of it, maybe being caught. So see, that's where your conscience tells you something. Right? It takes your peace of mind because of you are trying to go against nature. Right? So then, fear is one of the consequences. Fear is always, and anger, all these emotions are always signs of nature telling you that you're going against nature. So in that sense, of course, everyone who is involved in these things will have to deal with these emotions. But they decide still to go against it. Right? I mean, they might have fear of being caught, and hatred towards maybe other gangs, for example. These things are also existing. These are true, and one good example I always think about is this abusing a woman or a man. I mean, abusing another person, sexually abusing. See, from where do you start doing that? Let's talk about abuse. Before it happens, before a person does that, how does he or she feel before? He must at least feel a strong sense of desire, right? Strong desire. Strong desire, and that means strong vexation, strong suffering, mental. When you, let's say, I don't know, there's a person and he decides to abuse another person, and there are 100 ways it can happen, doesn't matter. But when he is able to accomplish what he wants, when he's able to fulfill his desire on cost of someone else, that time he feels good, isn't it? There's a time span he feels good. Can you read this? Is it readable?
Sorry, I can take a photograph.
Anyway, so he suffers before, he's doing something, and then of course he feels good. In the first beginning. But then after, how will he feel after that good feeling has gone away? He has done something bad. Let's say he has abused, let's say there's a he who abused a she. The feeling has gone away. I mean, that happened, that stays with you for a few days maximum, I don't know. And then, now you know that you have done something, and if others find out about it, that would be a problem. So that you have something to hide. You have something that you need to hide. And that is something you have to deal with. I mean, that fear lives with you. And as long as you think that what you have done maybe was okay. Some people think that what they have done was not bad, for example. Sometimes they feel that this person has deserved this, right? So they have done this and they still feel that this person deserves to be treated like that, deserves to suffer. But still, they know that if people find out that I have done this, then this is going to be a problem. So they have fear. But they don't feel guiltiness at that moment. I mean, guiltiness is what you feel once you realize that what you have done is wrong. Then guilt starts to happen. As long as you don't think that what you have done is wrong, you will not feel guilt, but you will feel something else. Fear, sadness. Yeah, it can depend, but there will be some form of vexation. You will always feel the fear of being caught, or another thing that you might feel is, see, this feeling was good. And if you don't have any sort of views that it is wrong to do that, you will not feel guilty. But one thing you will definitely feel is the desire itself comes back to you. So you see, there have been cases where people have abused others, but is one time enough to fulfill your desire? No. It's never enough, because the desire will come back always more. So that's why there have been cases where people have even locked up someone in the basement for 20 years, because there's no amount of abusing that will be enough. So therefore, because the desire keeps coming back. And not only the desire, but of course, see, the fear of being caught also has to be managed. That's why you have to lock up someone, make sure that he or she doesn't escape. So do you imagine you are this person who has locked up someone in the basement. Now you go to the supermarket. Don't you have to live with the fear that this person will escape? Yeah, of course. Or somebody will find out about it. Let's say on the street somebody looks at you in a weird way. Immediately you will feel, oh, what if I have been caught? So see, out of the desire that was there at the beginning, the mind wanted to escape from the desire. And it didn't know anything else to do but to abuse. But what has happened is it has started to dig its own grave. It has started to create the wound more and more actually. The problem has only gotten bigger, right? Because you follow the desire circle. Does the desire go away? No, desire hasn't gone away. Additionally, so following desire leads to more desire, right? And so on and so on. So this is one thing that happens. The other thing that happens is you're creating these vipakas constantly. And there's only a matter of time until you attract them back. So these are the two problems you get.
Sadhu, also, may I ask another question?
Yes.
Now, this is Kamesha Michachara Vedamani. I mean, this is linked to that. Now, for example, if you look at Sri Lanka's context, incest, which is very prevalent among the villages of Sri Lanka, extramatrimonial matters, which are consensual, right? And then, of course, it is against nature. But the mere fact that Buddhism does not provide adequate answers to these things, especially amongst the villages. I mean, they say it's consensual, and so there is no rigid definition given to this Kamesh Michachara Vedamani. So what is, I mean, I'm coming from this to another deeper point.
Yeah.
What do you think of that one?
You're talking about incest.
Incest. I mean,
incest
as well as extramatrimonial. See, these are because by practice they have become with both parties agree, right? I mean, they have no guilt on that. Because that is, of course, the educational factor in Sri Lanka is silent on these matters, I suppose. But according to Buddhism, where does this lead? Because I find that this is a question that never because in the villages, this is never taken up because, and according to the preaching of Lord Buddha, where does this stand?
So extra-matrimonial means affairs.
That's right, yes. I mean, which are against the nature.
I mean, affairs are something you have all over the world.
Yeah, that's sorry. My thing is, where does Buddhism stand on this?
Cool.
Lord Buddha's preaching.
Yes. See, so now I have addressed this question, should I or should I not, to a certain extent. There's one way you can say that what the Buddha has always said is what you give is what you get. Now therein you'll already find a lot of answers. So that means there's a convention in society of what should be done and what shouldn't be done. If you go against that, there will be consequences. Because you're treading on the practices and the ethical conventional agreements that people have come to agree upon for the harmony of everyone. And when you go against that, then you're creating the vipakas that the consequences will come. So
it is the vipaka that is the major consequence of all this.
Yeah. When you do these things, you'll create vipakas. any of these two things. And that's why the Buddha has said, Kami Sumichachara Veramani. That is because when doing so, you create vipakas. So you can see, I know this only from my teacher who has sometimes told me that many of the words for example, animals, the etymology of these words derives from the sankhara that has been done to create such a life. So depending on the sankhara that we do, which means the action that we do, there will be certain vipakas which are created, which fuel a certain existence. So that's a simple answer, which is very important to know.
So irrespective of whether you think your conscience is clear, this is nothing wrong, the fact that there will be vipakas is created because it's the act of against the nature and what you really want to that.
Yeah. So see, yeah, even if everybody says that it's totally okay, like fishing for example, people will say fishing is totally fine, there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that that there's nothing wrong with that, it is wrong in any ways. And we might get, so to say, sometimes we are blinded. We don't see that it is wrong, and we can't
see the vipakas.
The vipakas we can't see most of the time, so it's hard to see. Of course, these vexations and all these things are also vipakas partly, but we can't see the big dimension of that. But we are tricked by our own conscience, of course. It's hard sometimes for us to know whether what we do is right or wrong, because what people tell us, what we learn from others. So, and it's hard to correctly judge your own feelings. But the more that you align yourself with nature, the more you'll be able to see even small mistakes in your behavior. You'll feel, because whenever there's a wrong behavior, wrong means there's an action with desire or aversion or delusion that happens. So for example, when you kill, there's at least one thought of aversion in your mind. Killing a fish, fishing, there's a thought of aversion in the mind. And that is, of course, creating some ripples in your mind, which are what we feel as vexation. So there will be unhappy, like this conscience will signal you something is wrong when you do that. Now there's another thing which is, so conventionally things are very clear, and have I forgotten something? And do you want to say something to this? So yeah, this is one aspect. Now, of course, you have to see there are some subtle points that we can expand our horizon. Because the Buddha, what we have to also understand is that the Buddha didn't come only to talk about that level. That means he didn't come to talk about what is good and bad. Plenty of people have done this before and will do so after him as well, but doesn't make it unnecessary. This is a very necessary understanding. And even from this level you can see that we are not really, and in today's society is not really aware of this. I mean, the level of immorality and things becoming okay to do becomes higher and higher, right? So that happens. especially the influence from the Western culture also doesn't make it better in many times, but that's another thing. So the Buddha didn't just come to this, he came to talk also about this part. Now, how do we bridge that? One aspect is this. See, now, when you see, when I ask the question, what did we have before this example? For abuse, we had awareness. Yeah. So, see, actions themselves for example, stealing. What is stealing really? The action of stealing. So when you ask the Buddha, is it wrong to steal? He would say no, yes, it's wrong to steal. But something see, this pen, let's say you have such a pen. You have such a pen, but your friend also has such a pen. Now your friend comes over to you, to your house. He brings his pen. And he puts it on your desk. So when you go to your desk, you take it and use it without asking him, because you think it's yours. Is that what we can call stealing? Or no, anyway, this wouldn't be stealing, but let's say like this, your friend comes over and I have to create, so I want to create a situation where we take something with us,
unintentionally,
thinking that it is ours.
Unintentionally.
Yeah, thinking it is ours, we take it. But actually it doesn't belong to us. So is that stealing? No, that's not stealing, because stealing is the intention of doing so. So for stealing to happen, you must know it doesn't belong to you. And then you still do it. So it's not just using. For example, the example I gave you had a flaw, which was just using something that belongs to another person. It's not necessarily stealing. For example, if this pen belongs to me and you use it, then that is not stealing. But if you decide to take it home with you, knowing it's mine, then we call it stealing. So the problem is, so the action itself that actually happened is not stealing. The action that happened was simply you taking a pen and going with it. There's no stealing in there. The stealing happens on our mental level. It's a little bit like that. So the karma is not in the actions that we do. Karma happens because of this deeper reality. For example, whenever we act out of desire, aversion or delusion, then karma happens. And why do we act out of desire? Why this trying to here we have abuse. So an act out of desire happens because we feel that pleasure is there in this object. I'll keep it for that level for now. Pleasure is there in this object. This pen is very valuable. Then I take it. Because I feel that it's, as an example, when I was a kid, I was collecting these sticker albums. So I was really into finishing my sticker album with all the pictures of these football stars. So when I was at my friend's house, and he was having a shower, and I was walking around in his room, I saw he had 10 euros there. And then the thought came to me, oh, if I had these 10 euros, I could buy some more stickers, I could finish my album. And because of the wanting to have a complete sticker album, the stealing happened. Right? So now we can come to a very simple way of awareness. Is when I ask you at the beginning of your life, or if somebody would have asked me at the beginning of your life, then surely if somebody asks me what is the purpose of life, what will you say? What will we say? We will say, purpose of life is to enjoy life. Purpose of life is to become someone. Both of these things are very related to each other, right? Becoming someone and enjoying life. And enjoying life means what? Going to places, listening to music, doing things to be happy. That's our natural idea of happiness. So that means ignorant mind thinks. Ignorant means what we all feel when we are born. We feel there is a world out there with a lot of enjoyable activities and things, and my job is, me as a person, to follow and do these great pleasurable things. Eating the cakes, drinking the coffees, going and traveling the countries and the places. And educating myself means what? I'm not talking about this educating yourself in order to be able to, earn money so that you can survive in this world and fulfill your duties and responsibilities. That's very important. Even in our monastery, we have a school, and we always teach our kids all the necessary knowledge. Mathematics, I myself am teaching mathematics and physics, so that they have very high levels of education. Even our monks are doing PhDs and masters and bachelors in order to, to fulfill their responsibility as a monk. But that's not why we really do this, right? Primarily we do even this education, we do it because it helps us to be an important person, be respected in society, or that means to be someone, be a somebody in this world. And also because with this comes the chance to have money and to fulfill and experience all these different beautiful, tasty, enjoyable, delightful external objects. So what we really, if you think about it deeply, what we are really here, what we really believe what we are here to do, we all, is to import into our mind pleasure, beauty, happiness. That's one way to look at it, right? So that's the purpose of the mind, according to that's the purpose of the mind, or mostly we would say that's what I'm here to do, what I as a person I'm here to do. Does that make sense? That is ignorant mind. And also, so that means it comes with this understanding, I live in a world with many delightful things. And therefore, I need to import this delightfulness to me. I am a person, and this is what I need to import. The enlightened mind is something very different, because the Buddha has said, now, the Buddha has actually explained what's the purpose of the mind, and it comes in the word itself. The purpose of the mind is minding. Minding. What the Buddha called it? Buddha called it Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. This is simply minding. Now, that word, we have to explain this word as well. The purpose of this mind is minding, which means it's just there to report, as like a news reporter. Right? A news reporter has no... Does a news reporter, for example, things like, would a news reporter ever say this is something good and I want to have more of this? Let's say a news reporter says, yesterday there was this event that happened and hopefully we can see this tomorrow again. The news reporter would never say that. The news reporter will simply say what has happened. And what the Buddha has tried to explain us is, that's what the mind also actually, what its function is. In the outside world, things happen, events happen. The mind has only one actual function, and this is the only thing it can really do. This is what the mind really is. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. What does it mean in English? In Sinhala we say something like that. Perceiving. Getting to know. I think that's what the Sinhala word means. Getting to know. Getting to know about something that has happened. Or in English, Rupa means receiving. What's the time? Receiving. Receiving an object, an outside stimulus, or in Pali we call this as aramana, whatever. Right? See, sound, the vibrations come to the ear, nerve current is traveling to the brain, and then a moment of hearing happens. Getting to know, sound has happened. That's it. It's not about good or bad here. It's not about what I want. Because this sound happens after the causes come together. Can the sound choose what it wants to hear? No. It's here only to tell. Can the news reporter say what it wants to report about? Because the news reporter happens after the things happened, isn't it? The news reporter is not here to say, I would like for today to happen this. No, because he's only the reporter. So the mind is also a reporter. It's reporting what has happened. That means receiving an object, registering an object. So, registering, which we call Vedana, recognizing, which we call Sanya, responding, what we call Sankhara, and all of this together is what we call perception, Vijnana. So, this is actually what the mind can do. Nothing more is what the mind can do. So what it cannot do is things like experience pleasure from outside things, experience beauty. The mind can't do that. It can't taste, it can't experience tasty food. It has never done that. The mind can't experience tasty food. And it's not there to do that also. Then the question comes, how can that be? Because I have eaten so much tasty food all my life. How does it work? There must be a problem. See, that's where we are here, with ignorance. Because of the second process of not knowing, it's completely misinterpreting everything that happens in our lives. Like, as example, the pleasure that we feel existing in the outside world is not actually pleasure from the outside world, it's simply the mind internal relaxation which releases. That is how the misinterpretation happens. So, see, we feel that happiness is something we have to get, we have to achieve. And that's where karma happens. Karma always happens in order to find happiness. It's actions done for happiness, karma. A Buddha doesn't do actions for happiness. He just does actions to be alive and to fulfill responsibilities. That's why we call them as Kriya Karma. Kriya Karma has another meaning, which is Kriya means process, so it means like the process, realizing that it is a process. Because we have not talked about this much, but ignorant mind always feels personhood, beinghood, existence. So I just write this down, but we will talk about this another day more. So, see, to finish this, so should I not is a very important question. What you give is what you get will answer this question. And this is the conventional reality, but see, things like extramarital affairs. The problem is not the act. That's what I want you to understand. The act itself is not a problem. The problem is only when that act is done with the belief that that act has happiness. Because when that belief, and of course it only happens because of that belief, otherwise it wouldn't happen. Right? See, that is true, but the karma happens. See, I don't know, for example, let's say there's a man and he's married to a woman and that woman has a twin sister. So you didn't know about the rest in your mind? No. See, in that case, the karma anyway happens. I don't think that it will be a kusala karma. I mean, it will not be a papa karma in this case. But then I'm not, let's leave it for now. But the point is here, what was I trying to explain? The point was here,
queen sister? You were trying to say something about the queen sister?
Yes, yes. So of course, the action of an affair is not what Buddha has so much problems with. It's more it happens with this belief of this is something which brings me pleasure. And when the mind acts with this belief, it means it acts out of desire, then it tries to import a pleasure which doesn't exist there. And that's what creates karma. So the Buddha, the point is the Buddha didn't come to stop people from doing these things. As in, because if you try to do that, then you have to impose rules. And yes, it's good to impose rules, and these are the things which keep society in harmony, but you can never stop the problems in this way. The Buddha came here to go to the root of the problem. And the root of the problem is, these things happen because of this. And that's where he wanted to explain. So he didn't really focus of course, if somebody asks, should I do or should I not, especially when it comes to unmeritorious actions like sins, then he would clearly say don't. Okay, but apart from unmeritorious things, the question should I or should I not is not really of any of his concern. He will always question, why do you think you should? Why do you think you shouldn't? And then he will come and point out to you that if it happens with this in your mind and with this in mind, there's a problem. For example, even if somebody says, I want to become a teacher, maybe even I want to become a Dhamma teacher, let's say, then because I want to help others. I want to help others. Now, you go to the Buddha and ask him, should I do this or not? So then the Buddha wouldn't say, yes, because you want to help others, you should do that. He wouldn't say that, because he will question, why do you want to do that? Is it because you want to become a preacher? You want to become a teacher? Is it because seeing people be helped, like seeing, for example, you help someone and he's getting better, and that makes you happy? Is that why you do it? For example, usually doctors like to become doctors. Why? Because when they see somebody getting healthy, it makes them feel good. So the Buddha questions, do you want to become a doctor because when you see people getting healthy, it makes you feel good? And then he asks you, well, if that makes you feel good, how come it makes you feel good? Is that something that makes people feel good? Is there pleasure in doing that? And because whenever we try to find happiness in doing that, that's what propels this journey of samsara. And actually, because there's no such thing called pleasure in that. So because we try to become someone, like a doctor, like a person. So again, creating some identity. Then again, we're talking about who am I? Being a who in this world. Right? So see, another good contemplation we'll do another day is concerning this question, who am I? Because we have a lot of answers to the question who. I am a man, I am a monk, I am a son, I am a German, I am somebody who likes this and that and this, and who doesn't like this. So see, we have so many answers to who, but actually we are not a who, we are just a what, we are just a process. Then you can't talk about someone who likes, who wants, who is something. And there's also a deeper problem, because from that all suffering comes. Because if I feel that I'm a teacher, just as an example, if I feel I am a teacher, then there'll be things I want, which is, first of all, students and people who like what I teach. And See, the mind never arises to be a teacher, it always arises to perceive. For example, let's say as a teacher, I create a course and no one signs up. Then what is, so you see, you have created a course, but no one comes, let's say. And if you can be aware of what's really going on, then this is just the mind reporting about an event. Nothing. No one has signed up. That's it. That's the event that has happened. But if the mind tries to become more than this, I'm a teacher, no one has signed up, now you will suffer, right? Because there's something that I want which hasn't happened. Something which prevents me from becoming who I want to be. See, that's why when you wake up in the morning, let's say you are married and you wake up in the morning and your spouse is not next to you, just an example. Then the mind, which is actually a mind, it would simply, know this. Knowing this, and of course, maybe if there's any reason to find out what has happened, you will do all the things that has to happen. Call someone, where is she gone, or maybe look at your phone, maybe there's a message saying that I went out for shopping or something like this, so that's fine. But when the identity rises, when the mind tries to become more than this, it wants to become a husband or a father or whatever, now the suffering starts. Or for example, if you think that you are a good musician and you wake up in the morning and you have a concert in the evening, so in the morning already, you wake up and you want to be at the concert because you want to be a musician, but at the moment you're just at your house having waking up in the morning and just going to the washroom, right? Because the mind which goes to the washroom wants to be a musician. How can that work? It's not meant to do that. It's meant simply to go to the washroom and do this. Right? Maybe that gives you a rough idea of where the suffering happens because of these identities, which are connected to wantings. Yeah, I think it worked better for me this time to explain this. These are deep concepts, but we'll explain this again and again, and little by little it will become better and better. But I think you can see these two layers. So another day I will explain more deeper what awareness can also mean, but here also we can already see the wrong awareness. That means awareness is there to import pleasure and create existence. That is what awareness is not meant to do. But when awareness knows what awareness is meant to do, then it knows that awareness is simply to do this. But if awareness is not aware about awareness, then the awareness thinks awareness is here to do this. And then it will try to do something that it can't do. And that's when vexation starts, suffering starts. And if the mind in the morning thinks, I'm going to play the piano in the evening, I'm a musician, it has wantings. And it tries to create this existence which can't be created. Okay. And then let's conclude for today. Let us take a moment to transfer all the merits that we have acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, offering flowers and oil lamp, inviting the Swami to deliver the sermon, coming and joining the sermon, listening to the sermon and contemplating on Dhamma, and all the various meritorious deeds that we have done today as well as in the last 7 days. Let us transfer these merits first and foremost to all the bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, upasakas, upasikas, who since time immemorial have protected and preserved sublime teachings of and have passed it down through the generations of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, understand, and comprehend the Dhamma. Let's also transfer these merits to all members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including the chief prelates of all of the chapters who have dedicated their lives towards the noble path and committed themselves towards the betterment of all sentient beings. Let us not forget that among them are the monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries, who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let's also transfer these merits to all members, to Guru Swami Nahanse, as well as all the monks resident at the monastery, as well as the Anagarika attached to the monastery. Let's also transfer these merits and express our gratitude to all those who make great efforts to disseminate the teachings of the Buddha, be that by transliterating these sermons, sharing them out with others, or inviting others to join them. If any of them have been born in the woeful plane, may they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits to our devotees, friends of the monastery, who for the sake of merits continue to sustain the Mahasangha by providing the four requisites, helping with the construction of the monastery, as well as sharing their know-how and extending their well wishes. Let's also transfer these merits and our gratitude to all those who make these sermons possible, each and everyone involved in organizing these events and making them possible. Let's also transfer these merits to our mothers, fathers, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces, our elders, friends and acquaintances, employers, employees, our teachers, and all those who have helped us and supported us in the past. May the power of these merits, all of them, be healed of any physical and mental ailments, overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits to the devas and dharmas, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakradeva, as well as all the numerous gods and deities who are committed to protect and fulfill the Sambhava Sasana. Let's also transfer these merits to our guardian deities, who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May through the power of these merits they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits to our ancestors, all those who have predeceased us, all those who have been family and friends to us in this infinitely long journey of samsara. And let's also transfer these merits to our members of the armed forces, as well as the police forces who have sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. May all those who lost their lives in the war, be their friend or foe, rejoice in the merits we've acquired today. Let's also transfer these merits to all those who lost their lives in natural calamities such as tsunamis, earthquakes, landslides and pandemics, reminding ourselves that among them will be those who have been family and friends to us in this infinite long journey of samsara. May the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in a woeful plane, they redeem themselves and be born in a blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Finally, let us all resolve that. May the power of all the merits we have acquired throughout the day, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of arahants on this blessed land, and may through the power of these merits, you and I and everyone who has helped to make this program a success become Naratanahanse, Naratminianahanse in this very life itself, and in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now the Mahasangha will transfer their blessings to you.
Sukhita tara vedva
Sialo loka, sialo sattvayo, Nibbāna parama sukhayin, sukhita dharavatma, Nibbāna parama sukhayin, sukhita dharavatma, Nibbāna parama sukhayin, sukhita dharavatma, ragagini niveva, veshagini niveva, mohagini niveva, nivan sapalabheva, nivan sapalabheva, nivan sapalabheva. Tumuruangi suvisiyananda mahagunubalen siyalu lok siyalu sattvayo Nibbāna parama sukhayin sukhita dharavatma. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.